The pure school beauty braved the torrential rain and rushed to my house, just to spend the night with me, but I turned her down. The next day, the school beauty died a tragic death in the alley near my house. Since then, I've always lived with deep regret. After entering the police academy, I went into a frenzy, hunting for the real killer, but the heavy rain had washed away every single trace. For 15 years, not a single clue was found, but then a sudden bolt of lightning struck, bringing me back to this fateful crossroads. Classmate Goo, I heard your parents are away on business, and you're all alone at home. Can I crash at your place for a few days? I can do chores to make up for it. I looked at the person in front of me and instinctively reached out to touch her. Byway instinctively wanted to dodge, but since she was seeking help, she grit her teeth and stood still. A cool sensation spread from my fingertips, and her slight trembling reaction clearly told me that she was still alive. I really traveled back in time. Sorry. Byway panicked and stepped back, losing her footing and falling backward. Being quick-witted and fast-acting, I grabbed her waist, pulling her into my arms with a swift tug. Amidst the pouring rain, silence fell between the two of us. She froze, in my embrace not daring to move. I quickly let go and stepped back under the light. You looked so cold, so I instinctively wanted to give you some warmth. My bad. It's fine. I stepped aside to invite her in. Looking at her completely pale face, my thoughts couldn't help but race. In my past life after the killer committed this crime in Shanghai City, he vanished without a trace. This time, not only must I save her, but I must also use my years of criminal investigation experience to head to the crime scene tonight and catch the killer red-handed. Byway stood anxiously at the entrance, nervously clutching the hem of her shirt. Seeing me turn around to fetch slippers, she flustered even more. My socks are all soaked. I'll ruin your slippers. I can just walk in barefoot. I'll mop the floor for you later. Sharing a room with a guy late at night, while being completely drenched from head to toe, put her in an extremely anxious state of mind. She dug her fingernails deep into her palms to force herself to calm down. While my back was turned, she quickly scanned her surroundings with a glance until she spotted the hot teacup on the table and a few messy cardboard boxes, which finally made her tense spine relax a bit. Here's a towel for your hair. If you don't mind, use this for now. Can I also borrow a change of clothes? My clothes are a bit wet. Only then did I notice she was tightly clutching her soaking wet shirt. Since you have to change anyway, how about taking a hot shower? Otherwise, you'll catch a cold and end up getting sick. There's no bathroom in the living room, so use the one inside my bedroom. I'll go turn on the hot water. Hearing that she had to shower in my room, Byway shyly lowered her head and gave a soft, murred reply. The sound of running water echoed in the bathroom. Byway looked at my busy back and finally mustered up her courage. Classmate Goo, just call me by my name. You want to ask why I didn't question your reason for coming here, right? Byway raised her head in surprise, nodding her head with eyes full of curiosity. A beautiful girl like you, knocking on the door asking to stay over on a heavily rainy day, must definitely have an unavoidable reason. Since it's not convenient to talk about, pressing for answers would just be rude. Hearing these words, the rims of Byway's eyes turned red. Having finished adjusting the water temperature, I stood up and slowly walked over to stand in front of her. Suddenly, I placed my hand against the wall right next to her ear, trapping her in my embrace. I'm not worried about you having bad intentions, but aren't you afraid that by staying here, I might have bad intentions towards you? Byway leaned against the wall, gently biting her lip, only feeling a wave of warmth rushing through her entire body. I trust you. Her beautiful eyes boldly stared straight at me. This answer instantly left me no room to tease her any further. Thinking about the important matter I had to attend to tonight, I smiled and pulled my hand back. Go take your shower. Here are the clothes to change into. With your petite figure, this outfit can totally be worn as a one-piece dress. Just wear this for now and put your clothes into the washing machine and dryer. They'll dry in no time. Thank you. Byway turned and walked into the bathroom. This thank you was half for letting her stay, and half for my understanding and consideration. Hearing the sound of water coming from the bathroom, I smiled, turned around, left the bedroom, and went to make ginger tea. A moment later, the bathroom door opened. Byway walked out wearing my oversized hoodie. Her cheeks were kissed by the steam, showing a faint flush, revealing her snow-white skin above the knees. I've already left the slippers here for you. Byway slipped into the warm, pre-dried, fuzzy slippers, and the shyness in her heart dissipated quite a bit. The moment she stepped out of the bedroom, she caught the warm aroma of honey ginger tea. I brought the mug over, my eyes glancing over her loose hoodie collar, my Adam's apple bobbing slightly. Come over and have some ginger tea. Byway took the mug and took small sips. Want me to cook you a bowl of noodles? Would that be too much trouble? Trouble not at all. It only takes a few minutes. Go take a seat first, I'll add 2 eggs. Just as I was about to stand up, a small hand pulled me back. I know how to fry sunny-side-up eggs. Let me give you a hand, too. Entering the kitchen, my skillful knife work, completely caught Baiwei by surprise. The chopping sounds were rapid, and soon the tomatoes and ham were neatly diced. Baiwei stepped onto a small stool, tiptoeing to reach the egg carton on the top shelf. Following her movement, the hem of the oversized hoodie instantly rode up. I took a glance and my face immediately flushed red. Baiwei seemed to notice my gaze, panicking as she pulled the hem back down. As a result, she lost her balance on the small stool. I quickly reached out from behind to catch her, but my palm accidentally slipped somewhere it shouldn't have. Her body went soft and she fell directly into my arms. Then she realized the scent of sandalwood blended with the citrus fragrance of body wash. Both of us froze right on the spot. Not until the water in the noodle pot started boiling and bubbling over did it break this ambiguous atmosphere. I hurriedly pulled my hand back, took a step back and shoved the ladle into her hand. "You stir it, I'll go get the eggs." As I turned around, I caught a glimpse of my own bright red ears in the mirror. Turns out after all these years, it wasn't that I didn't have feelings for girls, but rather that no second person could ever make my heart flutter like this. Baiwei blushed, lowering her head to stir the noodles. The sizzling sound of grease perfectly masked the sound of her pounding heartbeat. The aroma of tomato noodles quickly filled the kitchen. I brought the noodles to the table as she hid her trembling fingertips. "Careful, it's hot. If you want to watch something, just change the channel yourself." The moment the TV lit up, Baiwei suddenly tightened her grip on her chopsticks. On the screen, it was playing something I forgot to change channels from, which was none other than study materials. The scene was incredibly hot and steamy. I coughed awkwardly, quickly switching to the TV's movie selection interface and randomly clicking on Crayon Shin-chan. Oh shoot, I completely forgot. Back then, it was precisely because I was afraid of getting caught watching this that I turned down the school beauty and didn't let her in. Fortunately, after so many years of training, my skin has grown much thicker now. Without blushing or a racing heartbeat, I pretended nothing happened and swiftly changed the channel. Baiwei also quickly changed the subject. "Turns out your cooking skills are so good." I took a tissue and gently wiped away the tiny sweat drops forming on the bridge of her nose. "You're sweating. Looks like the coldness has been driven out. Eat slowly, there's still more in the pot." She focused on eating her noodles, finishing every last bite of noodles and soup, showing a completely satisfied look. "Are you full already?" Just as she finished speaking, a loud clap of thunder suddenly boomed outside the window. I instinctively checked the wall clock, 9:57. There was only about half an hour left before the exact time the crime occurred in my past life. In this life, I must see the killer's true face clearly. Time is ticking. I prepared to set off immediately, to head near the crime scene for an investigation. I grabbed a glass of water and a blanket to drape over her. "Since you're full, just watch TV in the living room. Leave the bowls, I'll wash them when I get back. I'm going out to buy some late-night snacks. I'll be right back." "It's raining so hard and you're still going out." "It's fine, it's really close by." When I reached the door, I suddenly stopped and turned around. I was worried the killer had planned the crime in advance and might have even stalked her and lurked around here. "Remember this clearly before I get back. No matter who rings the doorbell, do not open the door. I have my keys, so I won't be ringing the bell." Hearing my instructions, Baiwei obediently nodded like a little kitten, wrapping herself tightly in the wool blanket. As the door closed, looking at the empty room, she curled up on the sofa and quietly waited for my return. I opened my black umbrella and stepped into the rain, glancing at my waterproof watch. The time was 21:58. In my past life, the forensic investigator estimated Baiwei's time of death to be around 10:30. My target tonight was that shop on the street she definitely walked past in my past life, the 24-hour convenience store. In my past life, Baiwei borrowed an umbrella from the convenience store and ate something before walking toward the alley where the crime happened. Even though she stayed at my house tonight, I had to confirm whether the timeline would undergo a self-correction shift, causing someone else to die in Baiwei's place over there. I absolutely could not allow this to happen. On the way, I pulled out my phone to check my home security camera. On the screen, Baiwei was hugging her knees, just sitting on the sofa watching TV. Confirming that she was obediently staying home and not wandering off, I quickened my pace down the street. Just as I approached the convenience store, I heard an angry interrogation. Next to the trash can at the entrance of the alley, a slender figure was cowering while a few thugs surrounded and kicked him, arrogantly demanding to know what he was hiding in his hand. The person pinned to the ground clutched a light gray handkerchief tightly, and a tin box dropped into the ground next to him. Yezi. I instantly recognized him as the loner in our class, classmate Yezi, who often got bullied. Hearing my voice, those thugs abruptly turned their heads around, their faces turning pale in an instant. Because my parents have some influence in Shinhai City, this pack of thugs usually stayed far away from me. Before I could even put my umbrella down, they scrambled away in a panic as if they had seen a ghost. Only the sound of rain tapping on the tin roof remained in the alley. I squatted down, holding the umbrella firmly over Yezi's head. Are you okay? Do you need me to take you to the hospital to get checked out? On his wrist, there was still an old burn scar from 3 months ago. I reached out to help him up, but he snapped his hand back as if he had been electrocuted. The tin box hit the wall, and a few colored pencils and half a bag of cat food rolled into a muddy puddle. Thank you. He lowered his head to grab his backpack, his soaking wet bangs hiding a mole at the corner of his eye. I noticed that under his fingernails there was a dark brown stain stuck, looking like dried blood. It's raining cats and dogs like this, and you're still out feeding stray cats. Yezi gave a vague, mirrored reply and suddenly coughed violently, his thin shoulders trembling in the pouring rain. I took off my jacket and tossed it to him. Put it on. Isn't your mom away on a business trip again? If you fall sick too, who's going to take care of your little brother right now? In my mind, a camera image from my past life suddenly flashed. In my past life, by way. Outside the convenience store seemed to have spotted something before she headed toward the alley. Seeing Yezi right now, I suddenly came to an understanding in an instant. I way back then must have seen Yezi getting bullied. In my head, the details of my past life quickly flashed through. If in my past life Byway left the convenience store to stop this bullying, her completely drenched appearance could very likely have turned this gang of thugs bullying into an act of sexual harassment. I tried hard to recall Yezi's demeanor on Monday in my past life. His injuries back then were much more severe than they are now, yet he didn't show any major reaction to Byway's death. This proves that in my past life, it was highly likely that he risked his life to hold back the gang of thugs so that Byway wouldn't be dragged away by them. Since it wasn't done by them, then the real killer must be someone else. After a moment of deduction, I immediately locked onto a key piece of information, the murder weapon. On a stormy day like this, whoever carried a small knife to stab someone when going out, that person would be the prime suspect. Thinking about how those 3 thugs could very well be carrying knives, I instantly regretted letting them walk away just now. As for Yezi, who was covered in injuries, in my past life he still managed to live fine until graduation, so for now I had no choice but to leave him aside. If you're fine, then hurry back home. Just as I lifted my foot to leave, I paused, glanced at Yezi's broken umbrella and shoved the black umbrella in my hand into his grasp. Your umbrella is broken. Use this one of mine. I still have things to do, so I can't walk you back. Be careful. Hurry home! Without waiting for Yezi to refuse, I dashed into the torrential rain and vanished out of sight. Because the rain was too heavy, those 3 thugs couldn't have run very far, and were sheltering under an awning to avoid the rain. They were cursing and scheming, debating whether to throw a sack over my head and beat me up. But they were afraid of my family's background, so they didn't dare act. Just as they were hesitating, I had already, with extreme speed, rushed right in front of them. The 3 thugs jumped in fright, thinking I came to extort money from them, waving their hands and backing away repeatedly. Hey, you 3 fellas, let me borrow something for a bit. The 3 of them looked at each other, their eyes full of wariness. Not borrowing money, borrowing something else. All 3 looked at me with completely puzzled expressions. I stared at them, flashing a harmless smile. Knives or scissors? The 3 thugs were dazed on the spot, clearly not understanding my request. You 3 roll in the underworld. Don't tell me you go out without even carrying a single knife. The reverse psychology naturally worked. The green-haired guy resentfully pulled a butterfly knife out of his pocket, spinning it around to show off in front of me. I only took one glance at it, and was immediately certain that this was absolutely not the fruit knife that caused the clean cut mentioned in the forensics report. This kind was way too flashy and showy. I'll pay 100 RMB to buy a fruit knife-type blade. Big reward available. The remaining 2 thugs scrambled to pull out their gear, one Swiss Army multifunction knife, and one tactical folding knife gleaming with a cold glint. Neither of the 2 knives was the murder weapon I was looking for. Good knives. Too bad I only brought 100 RMB. Never mind. I ignored the suspicion of the thugs, who were cursing because they felt played, and directly turned around to dash back into the freezing rain. None of these 3 guys had the murder weapon I was looking for. This clue was completely dead. An intense feeling of anxiety burned within my chest. Actually, the simplest way to crack this case would have been to reject Byway, just like in my past life, and then secretly tail her. That way I could have caught the real killer red-handed at the crime scene. But having reincarnated, the moment I saw her safe and sound, I absolutely couldn't suppress the fluttering in my heart. I would rather choose a needle in a haystack search than ever gamble with her life, not even for a split second of risk. I went back to the convenience store to buy an umbrella. The kind clerk handed me a clean towel, telling me to wipe the rainwater off my head. I thanked them, wiped off the water, and put my phone into a waterproof pouch. After that, I simulated Baiwei's movements and walking pace from my past life when going out, holding the umbrella once again as I stepped into the storm. The moment I stepped into the curtain of rain, a gust of wind almost snapped the umbrella ribs. I stepped over the puddles of mud and broken glass scattered everywhere, finally arriving at the starting point, the camera's blind spot. This was the exact crime scene mentioned over and over again in the trace evidence report from my past life. My waterproof watch glowed dimly, showing 22:17. The stormy wind whipped up, flipping my umbrella inside out. I decisively ditched the umbrella, letting the freezing rain pour straight onto my head. My phone vibrated inside the waterproof pouch. Leaning against the damp brick wall, I opened the home security camera. Under the warm yellow light, Baiwei was curled up in the corner of the sofa, her 2 feet anxiously rubbing together. Her eyes kept darting toward the apartment door, her expression carrying both anticipation and a hint of anxiety. "Just wait a bit longer, it'll be fine. Don't rush." The time had reached 22:29. Suddenly, the sound of metal clanking echoed from the end of the alley. I instantly went on high alert and crept closer, only to run into an acquaintance, Zhang Yan, the notorious delinquent from Jinhai No. 2 High School. Right now, he was sitting under the awning of an illegal construction site, using a fruit knife to peel an apple. "Well, if it isn't old Gu in the middle of the night with this heavy storm, why are you out here wandering without an umbrella?" "Just out running some errands. My umbrella got ruined by the wind. What about you? What are you doing out here at midnight?" Zhang Yan used the tip of the knife to skewer a wrinkled apple from a plastic bag. I knew his delinquent identity was just a front. His family was dirt poor, and his mother was suffering from severe uremia. Brought some fruit for the old lady, but ended up getting kicked out. The edges of his rain boots had anti-slip tape stuck to them, the kind commonly used in hospital hallways. The knife itself was mixed with the distinct smell of disinfectant, unique to intensive care units. However, my eyes were locked dead onto the fruit knife in his hand. The characteristics of this knife were identical to the description of the murder weapon in Baiwei's case. "What are you standing in the rain for? Hurry up and come over here. My place is right next door. Let me lend you an umbrella." Just as I stepped under the awning, Zhang Yan's phone suddenly rang frantically. From the other end of the line came the urgent voice of a nurse saying his mother's blood oxygen had suddenly dropped. Zhang Yan's expression instantly twisted. The fruit knife dropped with a splash into a puddle. Without even having time to say goodbye, he turned and ran like a madman into the pouring rain and storm. I leaned down to pick that knife up from the muddy puddle, chilling sensation transferring to my hand. After checking it thoroughly, I completely confirmed it appearing at this location at this exact time. The size and style matched flawlessly. This was indeed the crucial murder weapon used to kill Baiwei. In my past life, if the weapon was accidentally discarded by Zhang Yan, then the real killer was highly likely to pass by within the next half hour and pick it up. Taking a deep breath, I tossed the knife back to its original spot, relying on my years of criminal investigation experience to retreat into the shadows and wait in ambush. The torrential rain poured like crazy. 22:35. A vagrant reeking of alcohol stumbled along, collapsing under the awning. He knocked over some beer cans, his mud-caked canvas shoes, stepping hard on the knife handle, forcing the blade deep into the mud, before he grabbed his half-empty bottle and staggered away. 22:47. A delivery guy slammed on his brakes to seek shelter, accidentally stepping on the knife and taking a nasty fall. Cursing up a storm, he scrambled up and kicked the blade into the gap of a drainage ditch, where mud instantly covered the entire knife. The time had reached 22:55. With the knife buried in mud, it would be extremely difficult for anyone to spot it by chance. Only a few minutes remained before the fateful moment of Baiwei's death in my past life. Finally, a figure wearing a black raincoat suddenly appeared. The masked, dark figure flashed from the end of the alley. He didn't carry an umbrella, but walked straight toward the mud-covered knife and squatted down. My entire body's muscles instantly tensed up like a drawn bowstring. The exact moment he reached his hand out to grab the knife handle, the wrist exposed from his sleeve clearly showed a horrifying acid burn scar. I abruptly stepped out from the darkness. Aided by the dim light, I clearly saw the face beneath the raincoat. Turns out it was the famous nice guy at Shanghai No. 2 High School, the chemistry teacher Li Mingyuan. Waves of shock crashed through my heart. 3 months ago, he was the one who protected a student messing around in the lab, getting himself burned by acid, and later even gently comforted the student who caused the trouble. He was also notoriously henpecked by his wife. Everyone in the neighborhood had nothing but praise for him. But if the killer was him, then every single doubt from my past life could be fully explained. In my past life, Baiwei was ambushed in this dark alley, but there are no signs of running away. That was precisely because she also completely trusted this kind-hearted teacher. If Li Mingyuan offered to shelter her with his raincoat and bring her back to his house for his wife to look after, under those extremely helpless conditions of a stormy night, Bai Wei would definitely not have shown even a shred of suspicion. Arriving at this realization, I felt an immense wave of heartache, but I couldn't afford to act rashly. After all, Li Mingyuan hasn't committed any crime yet. I decided to use my criminal investigation skills to probe his purpose for coming out so late at night. Teacher Li Mingyuan instantly raised his head. Seeing my drenched appearance, his face registered surprise and concern. Gunancheng, how did you get so soaked like this? I went out to run an errand and got caught in the rain, Teacher Li. It's raining so hard. What are you doing out here, teacher? I kept my eyes glued to his expression, sharply catching a fleeting flicker of hesitation flash through his eyes. It's nothing, I just came out to buy a pack of cigarettes. He was lying. Li Mingyuan didn't smoke at all to begin with, and he was a well-recognized family man by everyone. My raincoat is pretty big. Come under here to shield from the rain first. Let's head to my house, and I'll lend you a raincoat to wear back. He still maintained that gentle and approachable demeanor. I nodded politely and slipped under his raincoat. While adjusting myself, I noticed his eyes, instantly, glanced over at the adult vending machine nearby, then quickly retracted his gaze as he put his arm around my shoulder. Throughout the walk, I was dazed like a living corpse. Arriving in front of his apartment door, Li Mingyuan suddenly pulled out his phone to send a text, then quickly tucked it away. I forgot to bring my keys. Hold on a second, okay? Ha ha. But earlier I clearly felt the ring of keys hanging right at his waist. This was the second time he lied tonight. The suspicion inside me kept magnifying. A moment later, the door finally opened. The person who opened the door was Li Mingyuan's wife, who was also a chemistry teacher at the same school, Shenqing. She was wearing a silk nightgown. Its belt loosely tied her cheeks. Flushed pink, the light of the warm entryway revealed what I caught a glimpse of. Red wine bottle lying on its side on the living room coffee table. Scented candles burning, along with scattered rose petals. The air carried a lingering, suggestive aroma that hadn't fully dissolved. At this exact moment, everything suddenly clicked in my mind. All the clues instantly linked, together forming a crystal-clear trajectory. Teacher Li had originally planned a romantic night with his wife tonight, but found out they ran out of condoms. That's why he braved the rain to go buy some. Out of habit as a good guy, he cleared some trash clogging the drain along the way, and happened to pick up that fruit knife. Because he ran into me, he felt too embarrassed to go buy his stuff anymore, and didn't feel safe leaving me alone. So he brought me back here. As for pretending to forget his keys to send a text just now, it was just to give his wife, who was wearing a sexy nightgown, some time to change her clothes. Every single one of his unusual behaviors had now received a perfectly logical explanation. How did you get so soaked like this? Oh dear, hurry up and use this towel to dry off. Thank you, Ms. Shen. I took the towel and wiped my hair. But the suspicion in my heart shifted into an even greater sense of bewilderment. If he was still that same good guy, and if his wife was full of anticipation waiting for him to come home, would such a warm man really harbor evil intentions toward a female student on the street, murder her and destroy the corpse? No, Shensing noticed that Li Mingyuan was still holding the dirty knife in his hand. She asked curiously, "Where did you pick up such a dirty knife?" Picked it up at the drain opening. It was blocking quite a bit of trash. Just as I ran into Gu Nancheng, so I forgot to throw it away. Li Mingyuan spoke as he was about to toss the knife into the trash can, but I suddenly realized something wasn't right. Wait, Teacher Li, let me take a look at that knife for a second. Li Mingyuan was puzzled but turned the knife around, pointing the tip inward and handing the handle out to me. This instinctive action to avoid causing injury once again proved his gentleness to the core. I took the fruit knife and examined it closely. My expression instantly changed. Earlier, the light was too dim, so I couldn't see clearly. The blade of this knife actually has a tiny nick on it. This was clearly caused by Zhang Yan, using it to cut hard objects. In the forensics report, there was absolutely no mention of a nicked blade, as the cut marks would show a distinct difference. This means that the real murder weapon wasn't this knife at all. I had completely targeted the wrong object. I abruptly flipped my wrist to glance at my watch. It was already 2300. The real murder weapon wasn't this knife at all. Panic seized my heart, and I hurriedly shoved the towel back to Shenqing. Sorry, Teacher Li, it's getting too late. I must hurry back home. I'll be borrowing your raincoat for now. I shoved the knife handle back into Li Mingyuan's hand, put on the raincoat, and dashed straight into the pouring rain. I ran for my life back to the crime scene, searching back and forth around that area for several rounds. Occasionally hurried passers-by would walk past, but none of them looked at all like a killer who would stop midway to commit a crime. 23:30. The streets were now completely empty. I pulled out my phone to check the surveillance. Bai Wei was curled up on the sofa, so sleepy that she was nodding off like a chicken pecking, at Grain barely keeping her eyes open but still trying to fight off the sleepiness hitting her while occasionally looking toward the door waiting for me to return. I clenched my fists tight, decisively stripped off the raincoat, and continued to linger around the pitch-black crime scene area. Even when the time had passed midnight, there was still no suspicious figure in sight. My heart was consumed by a deep sense of helplessness and chill. Could it be that I really missed it? If I can't find the killer, then how can Bai Wei's wrongful death in my past life ever be avenged? I raised my head, letting the pouring rain wash over me, my gaze becoming more and more determined. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. I instantly opened the surveillance camera. On the screen, although Bai Wei was dazed with sleepiness, she still forced herself to endure her fear of loneliness, walking toward the door with an anxious and restless expression. Hello, hello, hello. A sudden sound rang out, making her jump in fright. She hurriedly followed the sound and looked toward the camera. Gunan Cheng, I got caught up in some business, so I'm late. I'll be right back. If you're sleepy, just go to sleep first. It's good that you're okay. I'm not sleepy yet. I'll wait for you to come back. She forced a gentle smile at the lens. After I promised to return immediately, she dragged her tired body and curled back into the blanket, her expression finally looking much more relieved. Looking at the deserted street, I stood in the storm, letting the cold water pour down. This was a habit of mine for many years. Cold water could help my brain quickly clear up. I began frantically reminiscing about everything I encountered tonight. The convenience store clerk, Yezi, the three thugs. I forced myself to put everyone on the suspect list. Yezi. When his backpack was grabbed and turned upside down by those thugs, not a single penny could be found on his person, let alone a murder weapon. Excluded. The three thugs, though they had motives, the types of knives they carried didn't match at all. Excluded. Even the homeless man and the knife the delivery guy interacted with, that wasn't the real murder weapon either. After excluding all the impossible people, my memory rewound and locked onto one person I originally thought was absolutely impossible, Zhang Yan. Because his mother fell critically ill, Zhang Yan rushed to the hospital and dropped his knife at the scene. But if his mother's condition quickly stabilized, half an hour would be enough for him to run back and forth from the hospital. What if on his way back, because he discovered his knife was lost, he stopped by a nearby shop to buy a new knife? Then what about the fruit knife? In the case files, it was indeed recorded that between 2200 and 2300 that night, someone braved the rain to buy a fruit knife. And the time he returned just happened to miss me and Teacher Lee during the period we went to his house. After linking the whole incident together, suspicion regarding Zhang Yan was instantly magnified infinitely. To test this hypothesis, it was very simple. Right now, I just needed to go knock on Zhang Yan's door. If he had returned home and really bought a new knife, then his suspect profile would be completely sealed shut. I followed my memory and approached his house. My heart suddenly tightened. The light in his house was actually on. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door. The door opened. Zhang Yan was shirtless with a towel draped over his head. Old Gu, what the hell are you doing? It's this late and you're still not home. What's with this looking like a drowned rat? I stepped into the room, my eyes instantly locking onto a brand new fruit knife on the table. The mysterious person who braved the rain to buy a knife late at night in the case file was indeed him. Teacher Lee lent it to me. Did you just get back? Yeah, there was a minor issue with my mom earlier. I panicked so much I forgot to give you an umbrella. Why aren't you home at this hour? What are you planning to do? Nothing, just felt like taking a walk in the rain. You ran off in such a hurry earlier that you dropped your knife. Why did you buy a new one? Damn it, no wonder I couldn't find it when I wanted to carve something. Where did it drop? Teacher Lee picked it up and threw it in the trash. Whatever then. Anyway, that knife was used to cut wooden crates, so it was a bit nicked. I happened to pass by a shop, so I just bought a new one. He laughed casually, but my heart felt heavily weighed down. The time he returned home completely coincided with the time the crime occurred. Furthermore, he bought the exact same type of weapon. His suspect profile basically couldn't be ruled out. Weighing my words, I decided to directly test Zhang Yan. We are considered friends, right? What do you mean, considered? We're all good brothers. Did you run into some trouble or something? Just tell your brother straight up. Looking at his chivalrous demeanor, I stared straight into his eyes. I don't want to see you end up in prison one day for committing a crime. Whatever you do, think of the consequences. Your mother can't do without someone to take care of her. Don't do anything that violates the law. Zhang Yan froze. He completely misunderstood my meaning, thinking I had found out about his scheme at school, the secret about selling fake cigarettes. Not only was he not angry, but he was deeply moved because I braved the rain to come advise him. Don't worry, bro. Others might not know my way of doing things, but don't you know me by now? I won't do it. I saw him answer with absolute certainty. As I stood up to take my leave, I had no idea that this accidental warning had caused him to completely abandon his plan to sell fake cigarettes. As I turned my back to step into the pouring rain, he thudded his chest hard behind me with high spirits, vowing in his heart that I was his brother for life. With a complex mood, I said goodbye to Zhang Yan. Holding Teacher Li's raincoat, I quietly walked back to his apartment door, placed the raincoat down. From inside the house, a few sounds faintly echoed enough to make anyone blush and their heart race. I chose not to make a sound to disturb them. Walking back home in the pouring rain, my mood gradually became a bit lighter. If Zhang Yan really was the killer, then right now he was at least still at a stage where he could be guided properly, the stage of erasing evil thoughts. Meeting so many people tonight, for now no one held a heavier suspicion than him. By the time I got home, it was already past midnight. Along with the sound of the door opening, Bai Wei, who was half asleep on the carpet, suddenly snapped her eyes wide open. Seeing that I was back, she instantly beamed a radiant smile, quickly running over to me. But as she got closer, she noticed I was soaked through like a drowned rat. "You went out to buy late-night snacks. How did you get yourself completely drenched like this?" "The wind and rain were too strong. My umbrella broke and the late-night snacks got blown away too. There's nothing left for you to eat. Hurry up and take a hot shower. You're going to catch a cold if you stay like this." Looking at her worried face, I smiled. "The guest room only has a hard wooden board. It hasn't been furnished with anything yet. How about tonight you temporarily sleep on the sofa, or sleep with me?" "I'll just sleep on the sofa." "Just kidding. You take the bed, I'll sleep on the sofa. Let me take a shower first." Not wanting to get the freshly mopped floor soaking wet, I decisively stayed right in the living room and stripped off my drenched clothes. Hearing the rustling sound of clothing Bai Wei, unconsciously glanced up. Seeing those firm-toned muscle lines made her heart skip a beat. She felt her small face burning up, her throat feeling blocked by cotton, unable to make a sound. "I'm going to take a shower first. Once I'm done, I'll call you into the bedroom." I didn't notice her strange expression, grabbing my wet clothes and stepping into the bathroom. Bai Wei nodded mechanically. Not until the sound of running water echoed from the bathroom did she slump onto the sofa like she was boneless, pressing the back of her hand tightly against her burning cheeks. Who knows how long later, I wrapped a towel around myself and walked out, originally planning to call her into the bedroom, only to see her clutching the blanket like a little cat, curled up on the sofa and fast asleep, breathing with a total sense of peace. I walked over slowly and squatted down, quietly admiring her sleeping face. Looking at her steady breathing, I still had a surreal feeling as if I were dreaming. When I reached out to brush away the hair on her face, a drop of undried water on my arm happened to fall right onto her slightly parted lips. She licked her lips unconsciously, startling me into quickly retracting my fingers. A clap of thunder boomed outside the window. Bai Wei suddenly tossed and turned, causing half the blanket to fall off. I instinctively reached out to catch it, but ended up touching her warm ankle. I could clearly feel that her originally steady breathing had gone completely out of rhythm, her eyelashes trembling violently, and her body temperature gradually rising. She was awake but didn't open her eyes. I didn't expose her, instead scooping her up along with the blanket, carrying her steadily toward the bedroom. The young girl in my arms grew tenser by the second. I gently laid her on the bed, pulled out the blanket and covered her with my quilt. After that, I leaned down close to her ear. The hot breath made her unconsciously shrink her neck. I smiled, then turned around and walked out. As the bedroom door closed, Bai Wei opened her eyes wide in the darkness. In fact, during those few short steps, from the living room to the bedroom, her mind had already gone completely blank. She was tense to the absolute extreme, but never expected what awaited her was a gentle goodnight wish. She grabbed the edge of the quilt and pulled it up to her nose. The quilt still carried a faint, lingering scent of body wash. This was the first time in her life she didn't curl up tightly, her body relaxing completely and comfortably. Wrapping herself snug in the quilt, she drifted into a deep sleep. Early the next morning, the torrential rain that poured all night long finally let up. Having gotten plenty of rest, Bai Wei woke up early, changing into her clothes that had been dried last night. To fulfill her promise of doing housework to make up for the rent, she was extremely proactive in helping me clean the bedroom until it was spotless. But when she gently stepped out of the room, she suddenly froze dead in her tracks. Last night I was honestly just too exhausted. With a towel wrapped around my lower body, I had pulled over a blanket and passed out on the sofa. Right now my back was facing her, but the towel that was supposed to be wrapped around my waist had completely slipped down to the floor at some point. Bai Wei's small face flushed bright red in an instant. To distract herself, she skillfully used the ingredients in the fridge to whip up sandwiches and hot milk, but her mind couldn't help but replay that blushing, scandalous scene from earlier. Just as Bai Wei brought breakfast to the table, I also woke up on the sofa. In a half-awake, half-dazed state, I instinctively reached toward the head of the bed for my holster, only to touch the cold glass of the coffee table. I abruptly propped myself up with my left hand and sat up. The old injury on my left shoulder from chasing criminals in my memory actually didn't transmit a single shred of pain. Pressing my temple, I frowned and pulled the towel up. The skin before my eyes instantly created a disconnect with my memory. The battle scars on my body had completely vanished, replaced by a youthful, smooth, brand-new physique. I was fully awake now. I had really returned to 15 years ago. I abruptly turned my head toward the open bedroom door, my heart skipping a beat. Not until I saw her back busy in the kitchen did I heavily sink back into the sofa, letting out a long sigh of relief. Thank goodness, it wasn't a dream. She had truly survived that stormy night. In my past life as a detective, I carried endless self-blame and exhaustion on my shoulders, never having enjoyed a single day of a young person's life. Now she is still here, and my youth has also returned. This time I've decided to live this life to the fullest. Gunancheng, wake up and eat. I've finished preparing breakfast. I don't know if it's to your liking. Bai Wei poked her head out from the dining room, calling out gently. I sat up, sniffing the aroma in the air. There was a faint, enticing smell of wheat and milk. Coming right now. I walked toward the dining table. Bai Wei was sitting there quietly waiting for me. Next time you don't need to wait for me. Just eat first. It's fine. Anyway, I have to wait for you to finish to wash the dishes all together. Give it a taste and see if it's to your liking, or if there's anything that needs improvement. Next time I'll adjust it accordingly. With this skill, you could already open a shop in the alley behind the school. When that time comes, I'll handle the cash, and you can be the chef. Originally, I lived pretty diligently on my own, but if I keep living with you like this, I'm afraid I'll be pampered into a lazy pig. Ha ha! Bai Wei cupped her cheeks with both hands, her smile growing even more radiant. I took a bite of the sandwich. The warm egg blanketed with cheese swept across my tongue, tasting incredibly delicious. I pulled out a piece of tissue and casually wiped away the grease smudge on the tip of her nose. The tips of Bai Wei's ears instantly flushed pink, and she shyly lowered her head to stir her milk. After finishing breakfast, I intended to clear the dishes, my hand just happening to touch hers as she reached out. Her hand was soft, but a bit cold. Bai Wei insisted on snatching all the housework, her movements extremely swift as she cleaned the kitchen until it was spotless. The moment she stepped out of the kitchen, she looked around again, preparing to do more work. I grabbed her small hand and forced her to sit down on the sofa. I see you're not looking very energized. No more work for these next 2 days. I'm the landlord, so you have to follow my orders and get some proper rest. Otherwise, I'm kicking you out. Bai Wei was stunned by my words, nodding obediently. Let's go hit the streets in a bit. I'll take you to buy some new clothes. I can just go back home to get my clothes to change into. Mentioning going back home, the expression on her face clearly showed a bit of resistance and unnaturalness. No need. Let's just buy new ones. If you didn't bring money, just put it on my tab. Principal plus interest, you'll have to stay here and be my housekeeper, long enough to pay it off. If you can't pay it back completely, I won't let you leave. Bai Wei naturally caught the intention of wanting her to stay in my words, a wave of warmth passing through her heart. She finally beamed, a gentle smile, and softly replied, Where do you usually buy clothes? Auntie Shu's second-hand shop at the back corner of the street. With 50 RMB, you can already put together a full outfit. But I disinfect them very carefully. Every single time I use soapy water to boil them 3 times and dry them thoroughly in the sun. Her soft voice carried a hint of rushing anxiety, fearing that I would look down on her because of it. I just remembered a place. The clothes there are very nice. Suddenly being grabbed by the hand, Bai Wei stumbled half a step, her forehead lightly bumping into my shoulder blade. She didn't resist at all, letting me lead her along. We stopped in front of a glass display window at the corner of the street. From the wooden door of the shop, the chime of a copper bell and the sound of a sewing machine rang out, intertwining with each other. Bai Wei looked at the expensive items displayed in the window unconsciously, feeling a bit awkward as she tightly clutched the hem of her worn-out shirt. This place looks a bit too expensive. The owner is an old classmate of my mother's. She exclusively does business with students. It's not expensive at all, just rest assured and come in. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The shop carried a faint scent of freshly ironed cotton fabric. Auntie Shu behind the counter raised her head, her gaze resting on the two of us. Seeing our hands holding each other made Auntie smile, revealing clear wrinkles at the corners of her eyes. My, what a pretty girl, Nancheng. Did you bring your girlfriend here to pick out clothes? The tips of Bai Wei's ears flushed bright red in an instant. I noticed her tension and gently let go of her hand. Auntie Shui, please help her check out a few outfits for the changing season. She needs a few sets of undergarments too, pick the premium pure cotton kind. Auntie Shui smiled and led Bai Wei inside. The curtain in the back only covered from the neck down. Bai Wei kept feeling as if she were completely exposed to my line of sight. Shyly, she shrank herself deep into the clothing racks. I stepped back to the window and sat down, absent-mindedly flipping through a catalog. The soft voices behind the curtain still traveled clearly right into her ears. That outfit really doesn't need any adjustment. Women have to know how to pamper themselves. Undergarments worn inside. As long as you like them yourself, that's all that matters. This set will definitely drive that Nanchang kid crazy, just watch. You like it and he'll like looking at it too. Isn't that a win-win for both sides? Bai Wei intended to explain the relationship between the two of them, but the words reached her lips and she just couldn't say them. In the end, she only blushed and accepted it. Once they finished picking the undergarments, Auntie Shu again held a few outfits and slipped behind the curtain. Hearing the rustling of fabric inside, a thin layer of sweat broke out on the back of my neck. In my head, I couldn't help but imagine how she would look wearing them. With a swish, the curtain pulled open. Does it look weird? Bai Wei gently clutched the hem of the dress and spun half around. The morning sun covered the honey-colored, semi-translucent cotton fabric. The hem of the dress swayed, creating a gorgeous curve like morning mist. My Adam's apple bobbed heavily. Suddenly standing up, I helped her smooth down the collar of her shirt. The second button is fastened wrong. My fingers accidentally brushed against her firm skin. Retracted my hand as if shocked by electricity. Reaching out, I took a sun hat and placed it on her head to hide my embarrassment. Looks like you two are both very satisfied. Let's try this next outfit. The curtain opened once more. The semi-translucent linen under the morning sun outlined her youthful curves. For a moment, I couldn't take my eyes off her. Auntie Zhu's taste in aesthetics was truly not bad. The consecutive outfits were all extremely well-fitting. Seeing that she was getting addicted to coordinating outfits, I quickly spoke up to stop her. All right, Auntie. Zhu don't mix and match anymore. My card is about to max out from swiping. What are you afraid of? Go back and have your mother settle the bill. Spending money on a daughter-in-law, she'd be absolutely thrilled. I thought you two had already sealed the deal long ago. I smiled bitterly, repeatedly asking her to keep it a secret. Auntie Shui teased me and then offered a friendly 90% discount. During checkout, she wrapped the undergarments separately, leaned close to my ear and whispered softly, "The figure of this little girlfriend of yours, Auntie, Shu has already verified it for you. It's amazing." I coughed, violently blushing as I handed over my credit card, my eyes catching Bai Wei, standing on her tiptoes looking at a lace nightgown by the window. Under the morning sun, she looked full of life and beautiful. In a split second, the horrific photo of her corpse in the heavy rain from my past life flashed through my mind once more. I abruptly clenched my fists, silently swearing in my heart that in this life, as long as I'm alive, I must absolutely protect this beauty before my eyes at all costs. Once the clothes were settled, only the bedding and mats were left. I carried the shopping bags and walked ahead, while Bai Wei walked a bit slower, secretly stealing glances at me. The hem of the mint green lace dress in the shopping bag fluttered gently in the wind. The home goods section is on the 4th floor. In a bit, just pick whichever one you like. After all, you're the one sleeping on it in the end. Right now, we looked just like a young couple out shopping. She carried a mix of tension and sweetness. Arriving at the bedding store, the warm yellow lights made everything look soft. I pushed the shopping cart alongside her, watching her lean down to make her choices. It felt exactly like a newlywed couple shopping for their home. Is this one a bit too expensive? What do you mean expensive? If you like it, just try it out first. I grabbed a silk quilt and stuffed it into her arms. She smiled and said nothing. Waiting until I sat down in front of a shelf to compare the padding materials, she quietly put that quilt, the 4-digit priced silk quilt, back in its original place and hugged a cheaper light blue cotton quilt instead. This feels very good in hand. What do you mean good? The quality is so poor. I suddenly realized she was held back by the price tag. Standing up, I gently flicked her forehead. Good bedding can improve the quality of your sleep. Besides, after you stop staying in the guest room later on, we can wash it clean and keep it for guests. Buying something a bit pricey is totally fine. The phrases "we" and "stop staying in the guest room" made her interpret a completely different meaning. She was a bit dazed for a moment. Come over here and test the support of this mattress. Before she could even react, I had already pulled her into the fluffy silk bedding, casually sliding a memory foam pillow behind her head. My palm, separated by a layer of fabric, gently supported the small of her back. Bai Wei sank into the soft pile of bedding, her cheeks flushing pink, feeling as though the surrounding air was filled with the scent of molasses, a cloyingly sweet taste. After buying everything, she stared intently at the pale silver quilt in the cart, whispering a thank you. Thank you, Gunancheng. I abruptly stopped walking. She instinctively bumped into my back. From now on, you don't need to say those 2 words, thank you, anymore. Actions speak louder than words. Before you fully repay me, no matter what, nothing must happen to you. Though she was a bit dazed, she still nodded obediently. Let's go, let's head home. After checking out and leaving our address for delivery, I carried the bags of clothes and brought her back home. As we passed by a food stall at the corner of the street, the aroma of sweet osmanthus rice wine drifted over. I bought a steaming hot portion of rice cakes, blew on it gently, and brought it right to her mouth. She took a bite, leaving a bit of osmanthus crumbs stuck to the corner of her lips. I casually used my thumb to wipe it away for her. Is it good? Very sweet and fragrant. Next time I'll take you to the snack street. There are way more delicious things over there. Hearing my promise, she looked at my back with a dazed gaze. I had absolutely no idea that, deep down, she had always remembered their childhood. That promise made years ago in the park. After buying the personal hygiene products and returning home, the bedding had already been delivered. I was kneeling on the living room floor trying to put on a duvet cover. Byway, hugging a new pillow, stood to one side. Let me do it. Just let me do it. I'm afraid you'll end up sewing yourself inside the blanket. I shook out the new bedsheet, turning around to drape it over her head like a veil. Now this entire bed and this entire room belongs to you until you get tired of it. This simple sentence instantly touched the deepest depths of her heart. She suddenly turned away. I subtly noticed a slight air of choking back tears in the space. Seeing her shoulders trembling unnaturally, she was crying. Perhaps this was the first time she had ever experienced the taste of having a home. To dispel the atmosphere, I intentionally joked around. Don't get emotional too fast. I'm still going to charge you rent as usual. You can stay, but you have to figure out a way to pay off your debt. Hearing these words, Byway wiped the corners of her eyes and turned around, her eyes slightly red, but her face carried an incredibly radiant, bright smile. I had just finished helping Byway arrange everything, and was lying on the sofa preparing to catch my breath, when a sudden ring of the doorbell echoed, "Out!" Byway retreated a step in fear, acting on instinct. Having experienced the tragedy of my past life, my nerves had long been stretched to the absolute limit. I absolutely didn't dare to be even slightly careless, fearing that outside the door was that heinous killer lurking in the shadows. I bounded up, firmly shielding her behind my back to protect her. Just leave it, let me check. Noticing this overprotective nature of mine, Byway was a bit surprised, but a hint of sweetness welled up in her eyes. As if facing a formidable enemy, I leaned in to look through the peephole on the door, only to discover the person standing outside was actually Zhang Yan, the prime suspect I was currently targeting. On this day in my past life, Zhang Yan wasn't supposed to come to my house at all. The timeline has changed. This sudden visit made my alertness skyrocket. I suppressed my wildly beating heart and opened the door. Zhang Yan, what brings you here? Can't I come look for you if nothing's wrong? Last night the wind and rain were so heavy and you got absolutely drenched. I was afraid you'd catch a cold, so I specifically asked my mom to teach me how to cook cold-preventing soup to bring over to you. Looking at the thermos flask he was holding in his hands, it suddenly dawned on me. It turned out my action of braving the rain to give him advice last night had moved him, thereby triggering this butterfly effect. Looking at the young man before my eyes, his gaze full of appreciation and bro loyalty, for a moment I didn't know how to react. I also actually felt my head growing a bit dizzy. Then hurry up and drink it while it's still hot. Zhang Yan was just about to step through the door when he suddenly saw Byway being shielded by me behind. He was dazed for a moment, his eyes instantly shifting back and forth between the two of us. Byway, do you know him? Understood. Hello, sister-in-law. Looks like I didn't come at the right time today. This brown sugar ginger jujube soup must be drunk while hot. It's also very nourishing for you to drink, sister-in-law. I still have to go to the hospital to take care of my mom, so I won't be a third wheel anymore. Zhang Yan turned around and vanished. Looking at his energetic and innocent back, my heart felt an indescribable mix of emotions. It's truly hard for me to believe that such a highly loyal and righteous person could actually be that brutal killer. I even earnestly hope to find another real suspect soon to clear the suspicion about him in my heart. Byway looked in the direction Zhang Yan left. Everyone says he is a notorious big shot in school, but why doesn't he look like it at all? You can't judge a book by its cover. He is also a person with his own story. Many things are not as simple as what is shown on the outside. I opened the lid of the thermos, and a strong aroma of ginger and jujubes rushed to my nose. I poured it out into 2 cups, handed one to her, and said, "Drink it while it's still hot. You also got caught in the rain quite a bit last night. I noticed your complexion has been a bit poor lately. Drink a little more to nourish yourself." The spicy sweet soup flowed down her throat, and a wave of warmth instantly spread through her limbs. Before, I always heard people talk bad about him. I didn't expect him to be quite a good person. It's all because life forced his hand. He originally didn't have to become like this. Hearing the words "life forced his hand," Byway's expression suddenly darkened. Obviously, these few simple words also deeply touched upon her own similar painful struggles. Regarding Byway's family matters, I only know a little bit. Perhaps in my past life, when investigating her case, I had met with her parents. but basically nothing was gathered. Her parents got divorced and each had already started a new family. She always lived with her mother. This made me certain that, on that stormy night in my past life, Baiwei was driven to a dead end before coming to find me. It was definitely linked to her relationship with her biological family. In my past life, I heard from the neighbors that on the night Baiwei rushed out of the house into the rain, it was because a conflict broke out with her stepfather. It seemed she even stabbed and injured her stepfather. But when I went to question them, they adamantly denied it. They said the stepfather slipped because the floor was wet and accidentally crashed straight into the mother, who happened to be holding an apple-peeling knife. They also said the stepfather saw Baiwei saving a photo of a guy in her phone and scolded her a few times, which led to the argument. Not long after Baiwei left the house, they went straight to the hospital. The surveillance cameras confirmed the time they arrived at the hospital, ruling out their suspicion of committing the crime. However, upon learning the news of Baiwei's death, the stepfather didn't have any reaction at all. The mother fainted right on the spot and subsequently went completely insane. What broke my heart even more was that the investigation results showed after leaving her mother's house, Baiwei had gone to her father's house. But not long after she walked out again. On the camera, she kept her head down as she trudged along, her mood even lower than when she first arrived. On that stormy night, she was turned away by her two closest families one after another, and in the end she came looking for my place. I didn't dare to imagine when she knocked on my door just how much despair she must have gone through in her heart. Every time I thought about this, the regret in my heart would surge up like a tidal wave drowning me. Fortunately, heaven gave me a chance to start over. I will absolutely never let go of her hand again. I carried a glass of warm milk and walked toward the sofa. Baiwei was curling up in the corner reading a book, the warm light outlining her slender figure. I caught a glimpse of her unconsciously, rubbing the inner side of her left wrist, revealing a light pink crescent-shaped scar. Tasted, I added some honey. I placed the glass into her palms. She was just about to say thank you, but remembering my warning, she again swallowed those words back down. Amid the faint aroma of milk, I noticed she was looking at a book I had casually left on the bookshelf. What's this? Want to become a fortune teller? That's right, just wait until I finish learning. Then I'll read your fortune. She smiled playfully. While the two of us were chatting, the ear-piercing sound of a car braking suddenly echoed outside the window. Baiwei was startled, almost spilling the milk out. I quickly grabbed her trembling hand. After confirming through the window that nothing was wrong, I sat back down beside her and gently held her hand. Don't worry. You still owe me, remember? Before you pay off all your debt, nobody can take you away. Baiwei, who had just been in a panic, heard this sentence and felt her heart beat even more wildly. Just wait until I finish learning. Then I'll check if the two of us are compatible. I'm just afraid you'll clash with your creditor, which is me. Hearing this, Baiwei's small face instantly flushed bright red. She had actually secretly checked the birth charts of the two of them long ago. Surprisingly, they were extremely compatible. What's your college preference? Even though I have a few ideas, I still haven't made a final decision yet. As for me, mine is very simple. Whichever school you apply to, I'll apply to that one too. You still owe me a huge debt. If I don't follow you closely at all times, what if you run away and I lose everything? Baiwei held the spoon, gently stirring in circles, looking into my smiling eyes. Her heart welled up with a mixture of sweetness and restlessness. I want to apply to Imperial University, majoring in psychology at the Capital Medical University. These two universities were definitely not simple. Why do you suddenly want to study psychology? In my mind, the matter of her mother going insane suddenly flashed. Could it be that her mother originally suffered from a mental illness? Baiwei's lips twitched, but in the end, she still didn't explain anything. This major is good too. It can also help train your own psychological resilience while you're at it. I will do my absolute best. Then let me tutor you in your studies. She looked at me in surprise. My current grades in class are only at an average level. And you've always been at the top of the class. What are you doubting me? Well, gee, you're lying. Every time you lie, you don't dare to look people in the eye, and your words get choppy. Who knew that when this sentence fell into her ears, it meant that I had always been secretly caring about her? The sweetness in her heart instantly surpassed even the taste of the milk. To prove myself, I brought out a set of college entrance exam prep questions and scribbled away, finishing several pages straight, both fast and accurate. In reality, in my past life, to get into the People's Police University and hunt down the real killer, I had studied to a point that was almost crazy. These exam questions had already been carved deep into my soul. Seeing my hidden top student, ability and admiring look flashed in Baiwei's eyes. Then don't I owe you another tutoring fee? What should I do if I can't afford to pay you back anymore? Then hurry up and sign an indentured servitude contract with me. I took a pen and paper and handed them to her. It was originally just a joke, but unexpectedly she actually took it, lowered her head, and seriously started writing. I originally wanted to see what she would write, but as it turned out, Bai Wei only wrote 4 words on the paper, indentured servitude contract, along with the line contractor, Bai Wei leaving a large blank space in the middle. She smiled and handed the paper back to me. The conditions in the middle, I'll let you the creditor fill them in yourself. Then doesn't that mean I can do whatever I want? Then how do you want me to serve you, Lord Creditor? She gave a playful smile. I suddenly leaned close to her ear, my warm breath brushing against the back of her ear, making her feel a bit ticklish. Forget about serving, but as for orders, I have one. Come here. Tonight, Bai Wei nervously swallowed her saliva. At 10 p.m., you absolutely must go to sleep, and you're not allowed to wake up before 7 a.m. tomorrow. I'll make breakfast tomorrow morning. She gave me a surprised look, and immediately after warmth filled her heart as she bloomed into a radiant smile. Understood, Lord Creditor. When night fell, under my strict orders, Bai Wei obediently went to bed to sleep. I poured her a glass of warm milk. Locking the door is fine, too. I walked out, while she looked at the doorknob, and in the end chose not to lock it. Returning to my bedroom, I let out a sigh of relief, to numb my own self-blame. I used to solve cases like crazy. I even turned down the cushy position my master arranged for me, just fearing that the moment I was free I would think of her again. Now having returned to 15 years ago, she has been saved. I am finally set free. After a brief period of psychological self-suggestion, I fell into a deep sleep. In my dream, I returned to a corner of the park from my childhood. A little girl tiny like a porcelain doll was sobbing. Why are you so big already and still a crybaby? I'm not a crybaby. Did they bully you? Let me make them apologize to you. The little girl hurriedly tugged the boy's hand and said, It has nothing to do with others. Little Cheng took out a clean handkerchief his mother had prepared, gently wiping away the little girl's tears. Why are you just staring blankly at me? The little boy naively looked at his reflection in a puddle, making the crying little girl suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, my name is Cheng. I come here to play all the time. If anything makes you unhappy in the future, just come look for me. Following his mother's call, the little boy ran off into the distance. Ring, ring! The alarm clock rang loudly. I snapped awake and opened my eyes wide, muttering to myself, why did I suddenly dream of my childhood? At the same time, Bai Wei was also immersed in a dream about that very park. One of my parents is about to leave me. Stop crying, I thought it was some big deal. Both of my parents have left me, and I haven't even cried yet. Little Bai Wei looked at him in shock. She didn't expect this little boy to be so resilient. She tightly hugged the little boy, comforting him instead. But what should you do if your parents leave? Then I'll just live with my grandparents. I heard the adults say they'll come back after they finish their work. They said after my parents leave, they'll have new families. They won't want me anymore, I'm so scared. The little boy wiped her tears once again, holding her hand. Then you can come to my house is really big. I heard my parents say they want a daughter, so we can become a family. And this naive, childish sentence made little Bai Wei's tears pour like a stream once again. It turned out there was still a place in this world for her to belong. But from then on, she never came back. She left a piece of paper full of thank you notes, tucked under the spot where the two often met. At the end of the dream, Bai Wei watched his departing back, and without her even knowing, tears had already soaked her eyelashes. I knocked on the living room door to wake Bai Wei up. On the dining table, I specifically cooked red date, red bean, and barley porridge, with lily bulbs to nourish her blood and energy. Watching her sip the porridge like a little kitten afraid of the heat, I involuntarily stared blankly. What are you looking at me for? I suddenly realized you seem a lot like a little girl I met when I was very young. We played together for less than half a month before she moved away. I think you look a lot like that little girl. Didn't she say goodbye to you? Hearing Bai Wei's question, I sank into my memories. There was no face-to-face goodbye. I only found a small torn piece of paper, and that's how I knew she was gone. The paper was ruined by rainwater, leaving only half of it. I looked at Bai Wei, finding more and more that her vibe was extremely similar to that girl back then. I asked her if, as a child, she had ever met a little boy in a park. She just gave a playful smile, telling me to guess. At this moment, Bai Wei's joyful mood was completely obvious to the naked eye. She finally understood why I didn't have any reaction when I first heard her name. It was because the part of the paper with the name had been torn to shreds. Knowing that I actually still remembered her all this time, she uncharacteristically acted stubborn and didn't give me the answer directly. I guess you're not that little girl, because you're way prettier than her. Seeing her small face flush bright red in an instant, I smiled proudly. After finishing breakfast, I prepared to take her out to buy a phone. After all, I couldn't keep her tied to my side 24/7. At the same time, I was contemplating how to bring it up to my mom, who was far away, to borrow some money. Buying clothes and that premium bedding set last night must have completely maxed out my credit card. I just texted asking to borrow $5,000, but unexpectedly my mom transferred $50,000 straight over. Looking at the text my mom sent, "If it's not enough, just tell me. Remember to treat her well and love her right." I gave a bitter laugh. Looks like Fatty Shoe already reported the matter of me taking a girl to buy underwear to my mom. Having this powerful source of funding, I instantly felt much more reassured in my heart. Since we have some free time right now, is there anywhere you want to go? Yeah, I want to visit the Old Town Park. The Old Town Park. Isn't that exactly where that little girl and I met back then? Combining this with her words just now, and her background of divorced parents and family remarriage, plus thinking about her little habits of not daring to look at others when lying, and getting choppy when talking. Every single detail at this exact moment clicked perfectly into place. Regarding her, my heart suddenly experienced a violent tremor. In my past life following her death, my world sank into darkness. I completely had no state of mind to reminisce about childhood. Now, thinking back carefully, she really was that little girl from back then. The park over there is perfect for flying kites. Let's buy a kite along the way, go fly it, and then go hit the streets for street food. Okay, I've actually never flown a kite before. Seeing her getting as happy as a kid just from going to fly a kite, my heart was filled with intense pity. The normal daily activities of other people were rare experiences for her. I secretly swore in my heart that no matter how many colors she had lost, I would help her find them back piece by piece. Let's go out and buy you a phone first. You don't have a phone with you. If something happens, where is a creditor like me supposed to find you? Hearing this ridiculous excuse, she smiled and nodded. Pushing open the glass door of the phone store, the employee enthusiastically pulled off the dust cover and introduced to us a pink phone perfect for couples. Hearing this term, Byway shyly clutched the corner of her light blue skirt. I pointed at the sunset pink phone priced at 4,888 RMB. Seeing her staring blankly at the price tag and spacing out, I reached out my hand to block her view. If you shouldn't look at it, then don't. The creditor has decided. The employee brought out a demo model to teach us how to take a selfie. The snowflake overlay brushed across the profile of my face. Byway, flustered, pressed the shutter button. In the photo, there was only a corner of a shirt jacket left. Selfies have to be taken at this distance to look good. I leaned in, close, and held her hand, the warmth from my palm seeping through the back of her hand into her skin. I came almost right against her sideburns and pressed the shutter button. The screen lit up. In the picture, she slightly tilted her head up, the side of my face pressing close to the strands of her hair. The glass window behind us reflected the overlapping silhouettes of the two of us. Anyone looking at it would think we were a couple taking a sneaky selfie. After buying the phone, the employee offered a free engraving of the couple's initials. Then engrave these letters, GNC.MW. Byway looked at these letters with a face full of confusion. The first three letters were my initials. But what did the last two letters mean? When walking out of the store, she was still spacing out and thinking about it, almost tripping on the doorstep. I reached out and caught her firmly in my arms. The tip of my nose caught the faint scent from her hair. Watch where you're going while walking, you dummy. Hurry up and tell me, please, otherwise I'll keep thinking about it endlessly. She uncharacteristically tugged my sleeve to act cute. All right, I give up. Aren't I your creditor? MW means Mua cards as a shortcut. Of course, it can also be translated with another meaning. Byway suddenly realized. Suddenly, she seemed to connect it to that other meaning, and her heart rate abruptly accelerated. Her pretty rosy face flushed bright red once again. Looking at Byway's blushing and shy appearance, I secretly smiled in my heart. Those two letters, MW, she must have thought of my woman. This layer of meaning, I wouldn't spell it out loud. This maidenly mindset, a mix of low self-esteem and anticipation, made her look exceptionally stunning at this moment. The bus rumbled and drove toward the old town. That was the place where our childhoods overlapped. I took out one side of the earphones and gently put it into her ear. Have you ever heard this song before? Don't Cry by Jung Jahua, my favorite person. I quite like this song too. At that moment, memories came rushing back fiercely into my mind. In my past life, I had listened to this song countless times late at night to mourn her tragic death. The lyrics say, "Tonight I am like a night blooming Sirius, withering away at the most beautiful moment." It felt exactly like a prophecy for her fate. In the earphones, Li Ting's melancholy and ethereal cover voice echoed. Byway listened on, and tears suddenly fell silently. I didn't know that in her past life, when she wanted to end her life on the rooftop countless times, it was the silhouette of that boy from back then that supported her to keep going until now. The tears at this moment were a farewell to her dark past self. While I was spacing out, immersed in grief, a soft hand gently brushed across my cheek. Bai Wei's eyes showed a heart-wrenching look of pity, just like when we were kids. She suddenly wrapped her arms tightly around me in a hug. The warmth transferring from this girl overlapped with the memory of the little girl who had once comforted me in that park. I didn't break away, letting time freeze at this very moment. The morning sun shone through the bus window, dispelling the haze that had accumulated in my heart for so long. Getting off the bus, the breeze of the old town carried the gentle scent of camphor leaves. The breakfast shops around, the ringing of bicycle bells, everything hadn't changed at all. Walking into the alley filled with kites. Bai Wei, like a curious child, followed closely behind me. We stopped in front of a stall, selling kites. She immediately took a liking to a peach-pink butterfly kite. "Young couple, do you want to get one each? This blue one just happens to make a pair. If we fly too, how will I find a chance to hold her small hand?" The stall owner was left stunned by my teasing, while Bai Wei covered her mouth and laughed softly, her initial awkwardness having mostly vanished. The spring breeze blew across my face as I ran ahead with the kite, demonstrating how to launch it. Start running faster. Under my guidance, the butterfly kite finally caught the wind and soared up. The butterfly finally caught the wind and took flight. Bai Wei looked up at the sky, her eyes sparkling with a radiance they never had before. "Want to give it a try?" I handed the string reel to her. The wind power suddenly surged, causing her to stumble. Taking advantage of the situation, I wrapped my arms around her from behind. My warm palm pressed against the back of her hand and her fingertips. In that moment of soft contact, I caught the pure scent of jasmine from her hair. "Gunan Chang, I remember when we were little you always said clouds looked like cotton candy and wanted to taste what flavor they were. Now I've found something that's an even better match. And that's you. Because your smile is exactly like cotton candy, both soft and sweet." Right when the two of us were having this sweet interaction, I suddenly noticed a familiar figure squatting nearby. "Jiang Yan, what are you doing here?" Jiang Yan was stunned for a moment. "Old Gu, oh, it's nothing." He laughed it off and said he was waiting for a friend. Following Jiang Yan's gaze, I saw him staring intently at a girl with a ponytail, who was helping out at her father's barbecue stall. Looking at that girl, I suddenly remembered Jiang Yan's tragic past in my previous life. Jiang Yan and this girl fell in love. To erase her father's prejudice against him, which was caused by his reputation as a school delinquent, Jiang Yan put in an immense amount of effort. He cut his hair short, endured the pain to laser off his tattoos, distanced himself from his bad crowd, and quit smoking. Even the way he dressed became neat and clean. However, no matter how much he changed, in the eyes of the girl's father, he was always just a thug, scheming to trick his daughter's feelings. The girl felt bad for Jiang Yan, so she threw a tantrum, ran away from home, and moved into his place. Although Jiang Yan's mother was happy, she often advised the girl to go back and have a proper talk with her father. Who would have thought that the father, instead of understanding, directly brought the police straight to their house? Right in front of all the neighbors, he cursed out Jiang Yan for ruining his daughter's reputation, and even threatened to sue him for rape. Jiang Yan's mother, who already suffered from uremia and severe complications, suffering this shock, anger, and grief attacked her heart, and she passed away right on the spot. The girl's father was completely dumbfounded. Originally, he just wanted to scare Jiang Yan, but he didn't expect it to cause a death. A beautiful romance instantly turned into deep and bitter hatred. His mother was Jiang Yan's only spiritual support. The ultimate grief and rage almost made him risk his life right then and there. Even though the girl's father later regretted it and changed his mind, how could Jiang Yan live with a guilty conscience and stay with the daughter of the enemy who killed his mother? In the end, the two still went their separate ways. Not long after Jiang Yan dropped out of school and left this city. Years later, I bumped into him by chance at the interrogation room. He had become a ragged guy sleeping under bridges. That vagrant had gone mad, his mouth only repeating a single sentence over and over. He had an enemy who killed his mother and needed revenge. The ultimate pain had burned away his sanity. He forgot how to seek revenge, only able to live out the rest of his life in madness. Recalling his mindless state back then, I felt a heartbreak, no less than when seeing Bai Wei's tragedy. Therefore, even if in my past life, that knife pointed the suspicion toward him, I firmly believed that he was absolutely not the deeply wicked type of killer. Since God gave me a do-over, I absolutely will not let this tragedy repeat itself. I plan to give the 100,000 reward money from the crime clue to Jiang Yan. With a certificate of honor from the police station, the girl's father's prejudice against him will definitely be reduced by a large margin. What's up, old goat? Tomorrow at school, I'll tell you. Jiang Yan scratched his head, his face full of confusion. While the two were talking, a young man leading a little boy walked past. When he saw me, he froze right on the spot. What a coincidence. Taking your little brother out for a walk, Yeezy, nodded with an expressionless face, seemingly not knowing what kind of expression to use to face me. Hello, Brother Gu. His little brother Ye-shi spoke very sweetly. Because I had helped his older brother before, the little boy was very close to me. Hello, little Shi. So good. I smiled and reached out to pat Ye-shi's head. However, Baiwei sensitively noticed that Ye-zi was looking at me with an unusual gaze. When Gu Nancheng touched Ye-shi, within Ye-zi's eyes, there appeared an irrepressible urge and fanaticism. He was extremely jealous of his little brother getting close to Gu Nancheng, wishing he could replace his brother. The intense emotion caused his entire body to tremble slightly. Baiwei was frightened by that strange fanatical gaze. He couldn't distinguish whether it was ultimate malice or some sort of discomforting goodwill. Noticing Baiwei's gaze, Ye-zi suddenly turned his head, looking at her with a razor-sharp glare. Terrified, Baiwei sidestepped to hide behind my back, clutching my sleeve tightly. I looked up at Ye-zi. He instantly retracted all his aura, returning to that gloomy, lifeless appearance of his. I couldn't understand either what he usually thought about in his head. You two go ahead and keep strolling. I'm full, so I'll head out first. Ye-zi nodded awkwardly, his body bowing slightly. Baiwei, are you really full? We have school tomorrow, so go to sleep early tonight. I won't be making midnight snacks for you. Hearing these words, Ye-zi's pupils shook violently, his lips twitching as if wanting to ask something, but in the end he stopped himself. I'm full, let's go. Baiwei seemed a bit frightened. She tugged at me quickly, walking out of the snack street. Not until his little brother shook his sleeve. Bro, did Ye-zi retract his gaze from the end of the street, showing a rare, gentle smile to his family member. Baiwei had eaten way too much, sitting on the sofa and gently rubbing her stomach. I sat down next to her, took her small hands and placed them on her stomach, holding them to teach her how to rub clockwise. Looking at my patient and serious manner, Baiwei blushed. This warm atmosphere made her feel even more comfortable than at her biological parents' home. I went into the kitchen to mix a glass of honey lemon mint water for her. Baiwei, currently sitting on the sofa, suddenly fell into a state of anxiety over gaining and losing. The long-term suppression from her family of origin made her fear that the dreamlike goodness before her eyes was just an illusory bubble, afraid that when she woke up tomorrow, she would have to face that cold house again. I noticed her unusual state, walked over and pressed my forehead against hers to check her temperature. After confirming that she didn't have a fever, I sat down next to her. Honey lemon water with a bit of mint is good for your stomach. I used a porcelain spoon to scoop the liquid, slowly bringing it to her lips. She was originally too shy and wanted to drink it herself, but I used the excuse of not letting her feel more bloated to firmly feed her spoon by spoon. With each sip that went down, the warm, sweet, and sour liquid flowed down her esophagus into her stomach. Looking at my gentle gestures without a single trace of impatience, Baiwei's eyes welled up with tears. The long-accumulated grievance and insecurity in her heart were gradually being melted away by this thick sense of security. Tonight, Baiwei slept very peacefully. In her dream, she saw her deceased maternal grandparents. With tears of happiness in her eyes, she told them that she had met a very good guy. At the end of the dream, she held my hand, waving goodbye to her grandparents up in the sky. As the psychological issues accumulated over a long period were gradually healed, her state of mind also gradually shifted, finally obtaining the long-sought peace of mind and tranquility. The next morning, Baiwei woke up early to prepare breakfast. Looking at her busy silhouette, I realized her whole person seemed different from before. Her mood had become much more open and optimistic. After finishing breakfast, we changed into our uniforms and headed out together. Baiwei, sometime in the next 2 days, let's find a time to go to your house and move your stuff over here. Hearing the word house, Baiwei's fingertips visibly trembled a bit, suddenly clenching tight. She had absolutely no idea how to face those two already broken families. I firmly held her freezing left hand, transferring warmth from my palm over, telling her to rest assured. You don't need to worry about your family objecting. I have a way to stop them. Gu Nancheng, I really don't want to go back anymore. She gripped my hand back, her eyes full of pure trust and intense longing. Trust me, I won't let you go back. Right now you owe me a debt. Before you pay it all back, you're not allowed to run away. Baiwei smiled and nodded. After having seen the brightest light in this life, she finally had the courage to escape that dark place. On the second day, Baiwei and I went to school together. The sound of reading aloud echoed throughout the classroom. Just as Baiwei and I took our seats, my desk mate, Tujin, leaned in close with a gossiping look. Hey, I heard you two hit the night market together yesterday, and it was super sweet too. Is that true? Baiwei blushed shyly. Surprised, I reached out my hand and pinched Tujin's cheek, which was glowing rosy under the sun. Who did you hear that from? Confess right now. Ow. It was Zhang Yun's little brother, Ye-shi. Who said it? He said you were on a date with a beautiful older sister. I helplessly let go of my hand. A few guys in the class heard the rumor and joined in on the teasing as well. I turned my face and glared at them, and only then did everyone finally settle down and continue morning reading. Right at that moment, a middle-aged woman who still retained her charm suddenly appeared at the classroom door. I glanced over. It turned out to be Baiwei's biological mother. The moment she saw her appear, Baiwei's body instantly stiffened, and she instinctively turned her head to look at me for help. The homeroom teacher went out the door to exchange a few words, then turned around to look into the classroom. "Baiwei, your mother is looking for you." After receiving my eye signal, Baiwei took a deep breath, stood up, and walked toward the classroom door. As soon as she went out, her mother immediately put on a face full of guilt, exchanging a few words with Teacher He. He knowingly backed into the classroom. Sitting in my seat, I looked through the window. Baiwei stood not far from the door, keeping her head completely lowered the entire time, her lips tightly pursed, letting her mother ramble on non-stop opposite her. After a long while, her mother seemed to coldly throw out a final sentence, then turned around and left directly. Baiwei, who had just gained a bit of vitality in the morning, thanks to my promise, had visibly dropped to rock bottom. In terms of her mood, by the time she returned to her seat, she looked up with a bit of anxiety, giving me a glance. I didn't ask anything further, but just looked at her and gave a firm, reassuring smile. Seeing my smile, her tensed shoulders finally relaxed a bit and her expression gradually calmed down as well. "Hey, Baiwei, what did your mom want you for?" "Nothing, just family matters. Adult business kids shouldn't pry too much, just wait a bit. Once morning self-study is over, I'll take you guys to the canteen to feast like royalty. For now, just focus and read your book." I used the book to lightly tap Tujin's nosy little head, smoothly bailing Baiwei out. But in my mind, I had already finalized the next step of the plan. Since the shadow of her family of origin kept following her like a ghost, I had to fight to get more opportunities, to rightfully stay by her side. As morning self-study was about to end, I walked straight up to the podium and whispered a request into Teacher He's ear. "At this age of yours, you should still focus primarily on studying. Teacher, how about we make a bet? 1928. For the final exam this week? The final exams are this week. If I can break into the top 10 of the class, please agree to let me change seats to sit next to her." Hearing top 10 of the class, Teacher He's calm eyes suddenly lit up. He wasn't an old-fashioned guy. If I could transform the sparks of puberty into motivation, to surge forward aggressively, then to him, that would actually be a major plus. "I appreciate your courage. Deal? As long as you make it into the top 10, I will grant your request." I smiled and did a pinky swear with him. Returning to my seat, I immediately cracked open my English textbook, beginning to review in a borderline maniacal manner. My desk mate Huang Miao looked at me like I was a freak, as if I had suddenly gotten possessed. I didn't bother paying him any attention, because I knew this was a gamble I absolutely had to win. The moment morning self-study ended, I fulfilled my promise and took Baiwei and Tujin to the canteen. Tujin picked out a whole 10 yuan worth of snacks, scheming to get revenge for me pinching her cheek this morning. Seeing that Baiwei was still not very enthusiastic, I grabbed a lollipop from the shelf and handed it to her. "Eat some sweets first to replenish your sugar levels. It'll make your mood better. Remember what I said this morning. After school, I will get everything sorted out." Baiwei took the lollipop, took a few deep breaths, and finally broke into a radiant smile, no longer being awkward around me. Just as we stepped out of the store, I saw Zhang Yan sitting carelessly on the flower bed, his eyes staring intently at someone not far away, the girl with the ponytail who was helping sell barbecue. Perhaps he was looking so infatuatedly that he didn't even notice us approaching. "Liangzi, if you keep looking at her like that, sooner or later you'll be considered a stalker." Zhang Yan snapped out of it with a start. Seeing us, he stammered, "Old gu— Hello, sister-in-law," making Baiwei's face turn completely red. I told Baiwei and Jin to head back to class first, then turned around and sat down next to Zhang Yan. "Since I've already caught you, this brother of yours will teach you a trick. Chasing girls boils down to just one word: sincerity. But I'm not worried about Kuwanwan not accepting you. Rather, it's her extremely traditional father, who absolutely will not take a liking to this school delinquent look of yours." Zhang Yan instantly showed an annoyed expression. In the past life, it was precisely because of this stubborn prejudice that caused Zhang Yan's mother to fall ill from anger and pass away, and Zhang Yan ultimately fell into madness. In this life, I absolutely cannot let the tragedy repeat itself. I have a way to make him change his view of you. I know a clue about a wanted criminal, worth 100,000 yuan. You go to the police station to report it. Once the police catch the guy, this massive credit will belong to you. At that time, with the endorsement of the police station and praise from the school, if Father Q still nitpicks your style of dressing, you can just say it was to assist in solving the case, so you went undercover and blended in with the thugs. He will definitely look at you in a different light. Holy crap. Old Goo, this trick of yours is insane. That 100,000 reward money, let's split it 50-50. You take 50,000, and the pressure of medical bills for your aunt will also ease up. You'll also have more time to chase his daughter. The intel is absolutely reliable you down. We are brothers in our hearts with these words of yours. Say no more. Just as I finished finalizing the plan with Zhang Yan, I saw Kuwanwan muster up all her courage to walk over here. I signaled him and backed into a corner to secretly observe. Zhang Yan was 1.8 meters tall, yet when facing Kuwanwan, he was as awkward as an elementary student who made a mistake, even stammering when he spoke. It turned out Kuwanwan had once called the police to help bailing him out. She thought the school delinquent in the rumors was a fierce and evil guy, but didn't expect him to be a pure stammering boy. Watching Zhang Yan following the girl closely without leaving her side, this old father figure finally felt at peace. Just as I turned around, I saw Yezi standing quietly not far away. About last Friday night, I'm really sorry. Were you okay after that? I'm fine. This is to return to you. The jacket, I took it to be dry cleaned. Once I pick it up, I'll give it to you later. I took that cleanly washed handkerchief, patted his shoulder, and told him if anything happens in the future, just find me anytime. Then turned around to head back to the classroom. As soon as I entered, and I took the top spot, that Tu-jin was hiding in her desk drawer. Amid Tu-jin's protests, I handed the last piece to Bai Wei. Bai Wei gently broke the chocolate piece in half, sharing half with Tu-jin. The classroom was filled with youthful vitality. Returning to my seat, I took out my phone and found a few documents sent by my mother. A domestic helper labor contract with clear contract terms. A monthly salary of 6,000, providing free room and board, and absolutely no work that harms physical and mental health. Looking at this contract, I breathed a sigh of relief. This wasn't just a simple employment document, but a legal shield I created specifically for Bai Wei. As long as she signs this contract, proving she is already 18 years old and has a salary sufficient for independent living, then the guardianship of her parents will never be able to interfere with or abuse her anymore. If those two families won't give her warmth, then I will use legal means to personally pull her out of that dark quagmire. After confirming there were no errors in the contract, I sent the detailed information about the criminal that I had arranged to Zhang Yan. Looking at the brilliant sunshine outside the window, I knew that the new life belonging to me and Bai Wei had finally truly begun. After school, just as we walked out of the school gate, Bai Wei's body suddenly stiffened. She took a step back, instinctively hiding behind my back. I followed her gaze. It turned out her biological father, Bai Chenfeng, was standing there. Probably because Bai Wei hadn't gone home for 2 days, and her mother couldn't get her back when she came to school this morning. She turned to her father for help instead. I've got everything covered. If you want to talk to him, talk. If you don't, just let me handle it. You don't need to worry about anything at all. Bai Wei's pale cheeks in the spring breeze looked like a crumpled piece of Zhuan paper. She took 2 deep breaths, slowly relaxing her tensed body, and continued walking forward with me. We intentionally ignored Bai Chenfeng, walking straight out of the school gate. As a result, before we had gone very far, the sound of chasing footsteps came from behind. Bai Wei, wait up. Your mother told me you haven't been home for 2 or 3 days. What on earth is going on? Although Bai Chenfeng was asking, Bai Wei, his eyes were secretly sizing me up from head to toe. Bai Wei pursed her lips, her whole body trembling, unable to utter a word. Without the slightest hesitation, right in front of her father, I firmly held her freezing hand. This scene left Bai Chenfeng dumbfounded on the spot. Bai Wei also looked at me in shock, her eyes full of anxiety, fearing that her father would make things difficult for me because of this. What is the meaning of this? You should know very well what the meaning of this is. Last Friday night it was raining cats and dogs like that, yet she didn't even have a roof to take shelter from the rain. You tell me what is the meaning of this. Who are you? I am her classmate. Let go of her, stay away from our Bai Wei. You mean on that day of heavy rain and fierce winds, you guys would rather watch your own daughter get soaked in the rain on the street than let her stay for one night? Your place is no longer a home for her. Toward this kind of cold, selfish hypocrite, I had absolutely no intention of showing any respect. Insolent, who the hell do you think you are to lecture me? Our family matters are none of your business. Let go of her hand right this instant. Otherwise, I will track down your teacher and your parents. Sure, go ahead. How about I call my parents right now? If you want to hear them give you a piece of their mind, too, I really don't mind. You're harassing a female student? If you don't let go, I'll call the police. Filing a false police report gets you detained. Government agencies are not your personal bodyguards. I suggest you calm down a bit. Unable to win the argument, Bai Chenfeng directly reached out, intending to forcefully drag Bai Wei away. My gaze turned cold. I pivoted my hand and firmly gripped his wrist. The submission techniques trained in the police force from my past life made my grip strength far exceed that of a normal high schooler. Bai Chenfeng groaned softly from the pain. Right now, I only have 3 things to say to you. Listen carefully. First, Bai Wei's custody belongs to her mother. You have no right to forcefully control or touch her. Please back off. Second, when she needed protection the most, you just watched with open eyes as she was forced out into the storm. Today, by what authority? And with what face do you stand here acting all hypocritical? Third, she is already an adult and capable of supporting herself. She doesn't need your charity. If there's nothing else, we have to go have lunch. Goodbye. Saying that, I forcefully flung his hand away. If you still dare to relentlessly pester her, I will go to your company with a banner, so that your colleagues and bosses can all hear how you treated your own biological daughter on that stormy night. I think this will definitely have a huge impact on your promotion. I had hit the exact weak spot of a selfish person like him. Bai Chenfeng completely froze on the spot, left utterly speechless by my scolding. For some reason, on the walk back home, Bai Wei kept looking up at me from time to time. She felt that I was both familiar and yet unfamiliar, radiating a sense of maturity that absolutely did not belong to a high school student. Sorry about that, Bai Wei. Just now I couldn't control my emotions for a moment, and took it upon myself to give your dad a piece of my mind, without considering your feelings. I suddenly feel a bit regretful. After all, he is your biological father. Me confronting him so harshly might leave you caught in the middle and feeling awkward. I'm very happy. Very happy. She gently squeezed my palm, her fingertips unconsciously rubbing the back of my hand. She lowered her eyes. The way you stood and shielded me, and how you didn't hesitate to speak up for me? You're clearly just a high school student too, yet you dared to directly confront my father. I'm really happy. She lifted her head, and only then did I realize that at some point tears had streamed down her face. I took out my handkerchief and gently wiped her slightly red eyes. If you're happy, why are you crying? She didn't say anything, but just looked at me and gave a completely radiant smile. Within those tears, there was a total liberation from the past, and also the joy of a brand new life. This silly girl crying one moment and smiling the next. But crying isn't necessarily a bad thing. Being able to smile after crying is what's healthy. Hearing my gentle words, Bai Wei felt the sharp thorn that had been festering in her heart finally vanish completely. Arriving back home, I scooped out 2 large bowls of braised taro and pork ribs from the rice cooker. It's too much, I can't finish it all. There's a kind of hunger called your landlord thinks you're hungry. Just eat with peace of mind. Even if you gain weight up to 100 pounds, my place will always have room for you to stay. If you really do gain weight, at worst I'll just be a demon trainer and help you lose it. Don't torture yourself for the sake of your figure. Girls are cuter with a bit of meat on them, just like Tu Jin pinching her cheeks feels so good. Then if I eat until I'm all chubby, won't I be bullied and have my cheeks pinched by you every day? How could I have the heart to do that? Besides, you're my employee now. If I bully you, that's called workplace harassment. If you go to the labor bureau and sue me, I won't be able to afford the damages. We don't even have a single contract, so what am I going to sue you with? Who says we don't? I put down my chopsticks and walked over to the printer and brought a document right in front of her. The document itself has long been prepared for you. Sign it after you finish eating. Bai Wei looked at the name on the contract with a bit of shock. A parent? Did you talk to my mom? This matter absolutely must have your mom step up to be legally valid. So did she say anything else? She did. She said if you can't take good care of me, she will fire you. Especially this clause taking care of daily life. For example, at night with warm blankets and cushions. You have to be responsible for warming the bed for me. Just one look and anyone can tell it's a scam clause. This kind of special service costs extra. Seeing her no longer being timid or awkward like before, and even learning how to joke around with me, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. This covenant of freedom had finally completely protected her under my wings. The atmosphere at the dining table carried a bit of warmth. Bai Wei flipped through the pages on the table. Initially, she thought this was just a casual joke of mine, but then she found the clauses to be extremely detailed, so formal that it was astonishing. No way. Are you really going to pay me according to the rate on this? Black and white, it's already signed, so of course it has legal effect. If I don't give it to you, and you sue me later, I'll have to face a penalty that's several times higher. This won't do. How about we just tear up this contract? Looking at her flustered expression, I calmly took a sip of milk, having already made calculations in my mind. This contract isn't a game of house just between the two of us. Its real purpose is to deal with the trouble that might be caused by your parents in the future. Hearing the word parents, I keenly noticed her shoulders give a barely perceptible shudder, her eyes full of confusion. My parents, what does this have to do with them? Although you've just become an adult. Before you have a stable income, you are still under their absolute control. But according to Article 18 of the Civil Code, as long as you have a stable income sufficient to maintain life, you are considered to have full capacity for civil conduct. I quickly swiped my phone screen, opened the relevant legal clauses, and placed them in front of her. To put it simply, as long as you have this job, you have the right to refuse any forced interference from your parents. If they force you, you can use the law to protect yourself. Is this really true? Outsiders could never imagine how that kind of bloodless killer family and cold violence had driven her into a dead end before. At this moment, looking at the legal clause, I finally saw the gloom in her eyes completely dissipate, radiating an unprecedented vitality. Now you know the benefits of it, right? Later, after we finish eating, obediently sign it. But 6,000 yuan a month is really way too much. My mom only makes 3,000 a month. I simply can't do the job of a domestic helper well. How about we cut it in half? Silly girl, you eat my food and stay at my place. Won't I eventually recover this money? From you anyway. This figure is just written for outsiders to see. The money will ultimately be all mine, you see. Then I can rest easy. Seeing her instantly relax completely, she happily ate the bowl of pork ribs in her hands. It seemed like even the grains of rice had become incredibly fragrant and sweet. I couldn't help but tease her again. Mind you, not a single penny will be missing. If you think it's too much, then in the future all household expenses will come out of your salary, so I can experience the amazing feeling of being a sugar baby. Fine, I by way promise that in the future I will use my salary to keep classmate Gu Nancheng for life. Eat up, I'm video recording this as proof. After the meal, in a fantastic mood, she signed the contract and even hummed a gentle tune, forcefully kicking me out of the kitchen. She put on gloves and happily went to wash the dishes. The living room had restored its tranquility. I suddenly remembered that last night I brought a calming talisman back from my grandparents' place. The elderly said that placing this under the pillow makes you sleep better. Yesterday I was so busy that I completely forgot about it. I walked into the guest room. The bed had been neatly made by her. A faint, gentle fragrance lingered in the air. I walked straight to the window, intending to lift the pillow, but my gaze instantly froze. A cold fruit knife was lying quietly under the pillow. My pupils suddenly contracted. This knife, compared to what forensics in my past life determined to be the murder weapon that killed her, was an almost perfect match. This was absolutely not a knife from my house. From the moment she was wandering, in the rain on the street, until she came here, she had always been carrying this knife on her person. Countless images from my past life were exploding violently in my mind. The possibility of suicide was completely ruled out, because the angle of the wound was totally wrong. But if the weapon was actually something she carried herself, then those who were previously ruled out from suspicion by me just because they weren't carrying a weapon, the bullied Yezi, the thugs, the passing vagrants, the delivery guy, or even anyone just brushing past her, since the weapon was on her person. Anyone passing through that area on the night of the crime could have snatched the knife to commit the act. All of my previous deductions, at this very moment, were completely overturned. That knife isn't for... Having finished the dishes, she had been standing at the door without me realizing it. Seeing me holding this pillow and dazed, then seeing the exposed fruit knife on the bed, an extreme panic instantly surged in the depths of her eyes, dreading that I would misunderstand her. It's okay, no need to explain to me. A girl staying outside alone, having this kind of safety awareness is a good thing. I pulled her tightly into my embrace, feeling her stiffness and helplessness. And inside my deep, dark eyes, it was as if I wanted to tell her, rest assured it's okay, I'm here now. In this life, I swear I will absolutely never let the tragedy repeat itself, so that we can be together and never have any regrets again.